You know, it's a strange truth in engineering. Sometimes a catastrophic failure doesn't actually weaken a system. It makes it stronger. Today, we're going to look at how a disaster aboard the world's most advanced warship didn't just cause a little damage, it might have accidentally created a more lethal and way more effective naval force.
I mean, that's not just a dramatic headline. It's the absolute core of a massive strategic shift. So how does a fire, a moment of total catastrophic failure, end up tipping the scales of military power in one of the most critical waterways on the entire planet?
Well, this whole story, it doesn't start with a missile or a torpedo. Nope. It starts with something way more mundane and honestly, something that's a lot more revealing about modern warfare.
Okay, this is the number that sets the whole stage. 261 days. That is how long the USS Gerald R, a $13 billion supercarrier, had been operating without a break. We're talking 9 straight months of non-stop flight ops. Now, that's a huge testament to its design for sure, but it's also just a fundamental engineering truth. Every single machine, I don't care how advanced it is, has a breaking point.
And the Ford? Well, it found its limit. The failure wasn't some dramatic missile strike or a reactor meltdown. It was a fire in the laundry. But that fire burned for 30 hours, forcing the most powerful ship ever built to pull out of the Red Sea for repairs. This wasn't combat damage. This was just the laws of physics reminding the Navy that even its supercarriers need a rest.
So the fire on the Ford, it didn't just create a problem. It exposed a much, much deeper one, a kind of gap in the Navy's whole structure that forced them into an unexpected and, as it turns out, a more powerful solution.
Okay, so the obvious question, right? Why not just send another carrier? The U.S. has 11 of them. But here's the reality of global naval operations. At any given time, almost half the fleet is just unavailable. They're either in for maintenance, they're doing training, or they're on the complete opposite side of the world. There was no replacement just sitting there, ready to go.
This structural gap, it forced the Pentagon to get creative. And the solution wasn't another supercarrier. It was an amphibious assault ship, the USS Boxer, and it brought with it 4,400 Marines, a chess piece that was never even supposed to be on the board.
And right here, this is where the story gets really, really interesting. This unplanned pairing of these two ships, which have completely opposite design philosophies, created this incredible, unexpected synergy. It's a perfect example of a classic engineering principle.
So here's the best way to think about it. The USS Tripoli, which was already on its way, is the sports car. It's fast, it's agile, and it projects power from the sky with 20 F-35 stealth fighters. The thing is, it has almost no cargo space. Then you've got the USS Boxer. That's the pickup truck. It's not as fast, but its massive well deck can carry literally everything you need to build a new position from scratch. See, separately, they each solve half the problem, but together, they solve the whole thing.
This new scalpel and sledgehammer combo was perfectly suited to solve 3 huge problems that formed the very core of Iran's 40-year defensive strategy in the Strait of Hormuz. A strategy that was built to fight carriers, not this new hybrid force.
Let's start with the first big problem. For decades, Iran has turned these key islands into unsinkable fortresses, and they've surrounded them with a moat of naval mines. The logic was super simple. How do you assault a fortress if you can't even get to the front door? Well, the answer comes from the Boxer's pickup truck bed, the LCAC hovercraft. And here's the key engineering insight you need to understand. An LCAC doesn't float in the water. It flies over it on a cushion of air. See, those pressure-activated mines are designed to be triggered by the weight of a ship's hull pushing down on the water. The LCAC never applies that pressure. It just glides right above the threat.
And this slide shows you exactly what that means in the real world. A conventional landing craft would spend 30 agonizingly slow minutes exposed in that minefield. The LCAC, though, traveling at over 40 knots, crosses that exact same distance in just 7.5 minutes, all while flying safely above the mines. It completely rewrites the risk calculation for an amphibious assault.
So, the hovercraft gets the Marines on shore, but how do you keep them, and all the vulnerable ships supporting them, safe? This is where the two ships come together to create a protective, interlocking system.
It creates what you could call a roof and walls defense. The Tripoli's F-35s provide the roof, this bubble of air superiority that spots and destroys any threats from above. Meanwhile, the Boxer's well deck deploys patrol boats to form the walls, a protective screen on the surface. And why is this so critical? Because minesweepers are super slow and incredibly vulnerable. This system lets them operate safely inside a full protective bubble for the first time ever.
But, taking an island is one thing. Holding it is something else entirely. That requires a massive supply chain. The Tripoli can use its ospreys to fly in supplies, but just look at the math on this. An osprey can carry about 8,000 pounds of cargo. A single LCAC from the Boxer carries 120,000 pounds. That's not just a difference, it's a complete logistical game changer.
This is the math that changes the entire strategy. You would need 15 Osprey flights to equal the payload of just one LCAC trip. This means the Boxer's well deck doesn't just deliver supplies, it delivers a sustainable supply chain. It's the key that transforms temporary island raids into permanent fortified fire bases that can control the strait.
And right here, you can see the beauty of this whole interlocking system. These actions don't just happen at the same time, they actually enable each other. So first, you seize the islands, which makes it safer to clear the mines. Then, clearing the mines opens up the sea lanes to resupply the islands. And finally, those permanent island bases provide their own firepower, which makes the whole area safer. It becomes this self-reinforcing cycle of control.
So let's bring it all together. A single accidental fire set off a chain reaction that resulted in a force that is, paradoxically, stronger and way more suited to the challenge than the one it replaced. It really all comes down to these three key paradoxes. First, a simple laundry fire led to a superior tactical formation. Second, the Navy lost its most powerful asset, but proved it had the depth to replace it with something even more effective. And third, and maybe most importantly, Iran spent 40 years preparing for the wrong war. A battle against carriers at sea, not against Marines who could just fly right over their primary defense.
This quote just perfectly captures the strategic miscalculation here. Iran saw the fire on the ford and thought, here's our window of opportunity. But the reality was, by the time they'd finished doing their math, the real answer was already in the water and closing in fast.
Which leaves us with one final fascinating question. Did a simple fire in a laundry room accidentally forge the most capable and perfectly configured amphibious force the Strait of Hormuz has ever seen? It's just a powerful reminder that sometimes the path to the best solution isn't a straight line, but a series of unexpected, and in this case, fiery accidents.